We live?
We are live.
We're live. Happy Friday. All right. So, welcome to our live. If you're on or if you're watching later, we don't really care. Um, with me again today, our founder, Jay Carter. And if anybody is interested, we're going to post next week in the group. Going to have, if anyone wants to come on and wants to talk with us and talk about what we're talking about next week, which I think is it social and social
Yeah,
media?
social AI.
Yeah, social and AI. We're going to post that, and we'd love to have somebody join us next week. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Today, though, we're going to talk about project delays, and it's
Juicy.
going to be a scene, man. Um, so uh, I think, you know, one of the thing that I actually hated the most about project delays, honestly, wasn't, I don't, the worst part is not, I mean, obviously losing money is the worst, but like the worst for me was, I hate giving bad news, and like when it's really bad news, you get that like thing, that like big knot in your stomach. I remember we had a customer that has like 25 storage, personal self-storage locations in the greater Pittsburgh area. And like really sharp business guy. His thing was he wanted to be the Nordstrom's, which is the American like fancy department store, Nordstrom's of self-storage. So all of his places, very nice, everything and he's really buttoned up himself. And we were just doing some basic cleaning of some stone and brick around his entrance to his headquarter building, and we didn't do a good job with putting, you got it when you're using acid and like different chemicals, you got to either like cover it, or we were doing is just like keeping water on it, so it's just, the acid doesn't etch, because it'll etch the glass, right? So had plenty of people there, but we did not do a good job. And we burned like $22,000 worth of entrances, two entrances exactly the same, brand new. He had just had them installed. It was a fight to get it. There was a backstory with that. And needless to say, he was pissed. I mean, this guy, I mean, he screamed, he literally like shouted at me like full voice, probably 4 different times in the process of like when we were there on site and then coming back to try to clean it up. It was a lot of bad news. And I learned a lot from that.
Mm.
First of all, I learned a lot about, it was a simple thing, right? It was a small job. I think it wasn't even a $10,000 job, right? It's like, I mean, it was
Wow.
half a day's worth of work. So it was all at grade. So it was like, we didn't have to get any machines or anything. It was just had one buck of rolling scaffolding. That was it. And we aided in the insurance for 22 grand and pissed off a customer that had given us, I don't know, $1.5 million worth of work over the course of 3 years. So, it was one of the things I learned from that. And it's not one of those things, it's not one of those stories where I could say like, where I could say, there's this great ending, because it really doesn't have a great ending as far as that customer goes. I mean, I literally called him probably half a dozen times over the next 2 years, and just would randomly apologize and just be like, hey, let me know if there's anything I do for you. And just like basically just trying to like get back in his good graces. However, what I did learn is that, like planning for like the worst outcomes, right? Like it's the little things that like get you, right? And so like I didn't, on much bigger things over the next couple of years, I started building more like processes into what we were doing, and then talking, in our monthly meetings, all hands with our teams in our 2 regions, I would talk through these things and go through processes and coach and whatnot. And so it wasn't that particular situation. Last I talked to him, or he was still pretty cranky, but it made me better as a leader and as a project manager, because I was like, I mean, it was such a painful experience
Mm.
to, because then I was the one, like, I got our insurance on it. Then I reached out to the contractor that had installed it, and there was like a custom paint color and everything that he had picked out, the owner of the company had picked out. And anyway, so I ran point on it, even though I knew like this guy's gonna be pissed at me for a really long time. And anyway, so it was it was a painful but very valuable lesson. And it was one of those things that, like, I would dread driving up to that job site, like for the 3 or 4 days where I had people down there trying to clean it up, try to fix the problem ourselves before we, turn it over to the insurance. And and I was like, look, I just got to take my licks, right?
Mhm.
It's like, you just gotta, because it is what it is, right? I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? He never hire us again, you know? So anyway, so let's talk some more about that. So, you've got a lot of processes and a lot of pre-planning that you do with your roofing business, so you don't have those
Well,
conversations.
I mean, the word never, the word
Or
never
you have
doesn't
fewer of
exist.
them. Right.
Right. Right. So the key is fewer. Okay. So one of the most important things, and I think, it takes enough pain to move you to realize that most of your problems that occur with delays, with, you name it, quality control, all of it becomes really a situation of you didn't plan. All right. And when we talk about planning, we talk about process, we talk about all of this. But let's just imagine for a second, two contractors. Okay. We've got contractor one on one side that is so busy just going job to job to job, doesn't have time to, get RFPs, requests for proposals, doesn't, lock in all of his material costs, everything else, and it's just kind of going at the seam of their pants. And believe me,
Right.
I existed for a decade like
Right.
this. Okay,
Right.
job to job, and just you just manage everything kind of on the fly. What I came to realize very, painfully through these kind of problems happening over and
Right.
over and over again, like I would just chalk it up. Oh, well, it was this guy, and it was this guy, it was this problem, it was that problem. And finally, I had a customer that was extremely tough on me. And it was a general contractor, made my life absolute hell. And he picked me apart. And again, I hate losing. I hate, like, and he was right. And
Yeah.
he literally told me at that point, he said he again, in terms of the pain, we were weeks behind. He was back charging me like this was a commercial project, and I'll never forget him just always pointing out the flaw. Like, had you planned for that? When did you order that? And it was like I was being, kid gloved. And I'll never forget, he's laughing at me because, again, he just sees the disorganization and the chaos in the process. And it wasn't that we were doing bad work, it was that there was nothing planned. So
Yeah.
really, from that day forward, and from that project forward, I will never forget, it was a keg restaurant, and just everything you could think of. And because I was flying by the seam of my pants, I'll be
Yeah.
honest. Okay.
Yeah.
But I started doing something that day that changed the way that I do business today, and I still do it. And it's this, is that before I take a job, before I start a job, if I don't have, 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks ahead, right? I'm not gonna just jump on that job. I don't move. I say no. And I put people further out in my schedule so that I have everything in place. So
Yeah.
did we check the material? And it's a checklist. It's literally a checklist that we go through. And every one of my team members, we've got it broken down into tasks, into exact, things that need to be done on every job, done the same way. And every time we roll with it, right, we're looking for it to be broken, if that makes sense. Okay.
Right.
Because what ends up happening is every time there's a mistake or a change or anything, oh, well, we learned something new. This is a lesson learned. We're going to put
Yep.
that into our process so it doesn't happen again.
Yep.
And we have this bank of knowledge that now, somebody very average can come through
Yeah.
without having to go through all the pain, can run it, and it avoids these problems. So this also does something else that's really important, and that allows us to communicate
Oh, I think
Uh-oh.
he just froze there. I heard communicate effectively. I think that's where it froze.
This
Did
happened
you catch
twice now.
that? Are we still live? I think we're still live. Yeah, we're still live. Yeah, I see us on the screen
Yeah,
now.
I think we're still live, but
Yeah,
my
so
my internet's for some reason. Okay.
well, you're still.
So
I can still see you. Yeah. So you said communicate
go
effectively.
ahead.
That's where you left off.
You can still hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Yeah. Yeah, so again, this is the easiest thing of all to take care of, right? So again, communication comes back to what we were talking last week. Like, why don't you let your crews know ahead of time? We have company cam, we do a pre-job inspection, we go through every detail of that job. All right, we lock in our material price, we know when the deliveries will be, and that's before the job even goes.
Yeah.
And we could do so much more projects because we
Right.
took that time to plan, right?
Yep.
And we can also communicate with our guys. Our guys get used to having jobs being well organized, having, being able to see 2, 3, 4 jobs ahead to know where the problems will be. And we let them buy in on that. We let them
Yeah.
share their opinions on, and we talk about as a team, what leads us to our next thing is where's the risks? Where's the problems?
Right.
What have we already learned from that we need to be aware of? And again, if you communicate that awareness of the problem or the risk, that eliminates a lot of it from occurring, right? It's when you go in blindly to jobs, maybe you're aware, maybe you're not, but if you're not utilizing your team to identify these risks and to bring them up, and you've got a good way of planning for them, that's how these delays happen, right? And it's not, delays are going to happen no matter what, okay?
Yeah. Right.
But it's the frequency of which they happen. Do you have them every other job? Do you
Right.
have them once a year? Right? What is it going to be? So, I mean, in terms of, really managing the risk, it starts with planning, effective communication,
Right.
really understanding, what constitutes a risk. And then, we move into resources. We talk a lot about, what are the resources we need? What equipment needs to be there? Okay.
Yeah.
What tools need to be on site? Is it going to affect other projects? Right. So really being aware. And then here's probably the best thing that I did in my business is I made one person only in charge of logistics of the equipment and the resources. Okay.
Yep.
So if we're ordering, it goes through one person.
Yep.
All right. And again, it's lessons learned. We're not going to have them perfect every time, but I know that my material, like we call them material handlers, they have a manager,
Yep.
and they're managing all of the equipment, we use roll formers and all types of stuff. So I've got one person that is the main contact between the sales, right, production,
Yeah.
and we have a material handler. That's made a significant difference. The other, for guys that are maybe not at that scale yet, resource management really comes down to is utilizing your partners, utilizing your suppliers, right?
Right.
Making sure that you have good communication with them, letting
Yeah.
them know, all right, here's the details of this job. Like, I need this
Yeah.
delivery at XYZ, not just calling them up the day you need it and then,
Right.
pushing them on. And I'll give you another, I'm probably rambling a little bit here, but
No,
I'll
no,
give you
it's good stuff,
another
man.
I'll give you another really good insight on this.
Yeah.
If you're the type of contractor that on Friday messages your supplier and tells them, hey, I need this and I need that and I need that, I promise you that you are paying the retail price
Right.
for everything that you're getting.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Because they're dinging you. Do you not think that the suppliers make their money on the nickels and dimes, right?
Right.
That extra, thing here and there, like, getting them to, be able to jump and jump through hoops doesn't save you any money. All right.
Right.
It makes things more difficult and they charge more for that, right? That's the extra delivery cost. That's the little things that end up pushing job costs way, way over where they should be.
Right.
And then accountability, right? So where owners need to really be focused on is holding accountability. If you got guys and crews that, again, decide at 5 o'clock, and I know this is a hard one to avoid, oh, boss, I need this.
Yeah.
And you've got to somehow jump through the hoops. You've got a
Right.
broken system. Okay.
Yeah.
That means that you have to move. Your whole business has to move to solve this one problem. And it stops you from doing everything else. Why did that happen? How did that happen? What
Right.
happens when that happens? Right? Those things have not been communicated. Like, is there a point man that, again, the funniest things that I see, and it blows my mind, is the owners driving around in the pickup truck, dropping off material like, well, the guys needed it to get the job done. But no, you could hire
Yeah.
someone for 20, 22 bucks an hour that just runs around. If you've got one or two jobs going even,
Right.
and they're the point person, maybe they work as labor on the crew, whatever. All right. But you need someone managing resources, managing material, managing shortages. If you are putting yourself in that, that's chaos. That is just instant chaos. Okay. Because it
Yeah.
does happen. It does,
Well,
it does occur.
and the thing that, I mean, so again, anybody anybody that's watching this conversation
Mhm.
or is going to watch it later has felt exactly what we're talking
Mhm.
about, right? And I mean, my first 2 years in the masonry restoration business, I spent 25% of my time chasing saw blades and
Mhm.
like chasing grinder blades. That was probably the thing I did,
Yeah.
or going to get new grinders because a grinder got blown out, or
Mhm.
chasing a fucking box of case of caulking or something. And you know, it was like, I could see tangibly where, this is costing us money, right? Because
Mhm.
oftentimes what I would leave is I would leave a job site,
Mhm.
that an active job site. I would push doing an estimate on
Yep.
a job,
That's right.
right? So that would get pushed an estimate. And I definitely lost jobs because, that's a speed. I mean,
Right.
there's a speed you have to have as a contractor. Like sometimes the first guy gets it.
Right.
So, so I saw that, and, I don't think it really matters, to kind of get real specific for a second. I don't think it really matters what trade you're in,
Mhm.
right? Because every trade uses probably 10, 10 materials, a lot of 10 materials, right? And you
Mhm.
probably use 10 to 15 specific types of equipment.
Mhm.
And, what I saw, because again, for those of you who haven't seen me before, or Jay before, this, the first time, I took over a struggling mason restoration business. And, it was, I mean, we had no credit. I mean, we were borrowing from the people you don't want to borrow from, like the 40% a year, compounding interest. And that's all the credit we could get. We owed everyone. We owed like 300, 400 grand to vendors. I mean, it was bad. And, so that I had to try to figure out like how to like do the work with all of these very significant problems. So my point is, we didn't have the money to go
Mhm.
out and buy pallets of chemical and pallets of caulking and pallets of like, type N gray mortar and pallets of like the standard brick. We block. We couldn't afford to carry an inventory because we had no fucking money.
Right.
So what I saw is that, as we got a little bit better at some of these things that we're talking about and started planning a little bit more, that story I told, about burning Stevens brick, that we didn't have, I mean, that stopped happening for me. It stopped
Right.
happening. I had people that, we had to manage, but like for me and for my jobs, that stopped happening. But it kind of builds on itself, right?
Right.
So it started with, so I started, I saw, okay, we have these 5 things that we use a lot. So we started buying just a pallet of, 40, it was like 45 gallons of chemical cleaner, right? And,
Mhm.
and wash down. And then we could afford to buy like 2 pallets, right? And then I could afford to put them in both of our warehouses. Then I could afford to stock them for, about half the season. And so it kind of built on itself to where, and then we were inventorying those things. So,
Right.
we had a share drive where, I could go into the Excel folder and see we've got 3 cases of, redwood tan, we've got 4 and so I knew, and then I knew going into a job that, it was like a month out. Okay, we've got to order this, and then I would know when to order it, and da 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 da. And to what you were saying, I had a person that did that, right? So I
Right.
wasn't doing it myself. So, you know, this doesn't happen all at once, but it's just like you take
It
one step and then you take the next step and then you get to what we're talking about.
right.
And it's
But again,
fun. Like that's fun because you make a lot of fucking money when you run it like that.
well, it's
Like
again,
it pays.
it's stopping and putting, even if it's a simple checklist, that one thing will grow into, well,
Yeah.
now I can make that more efficient. And again,
Yeah.
I don't care if you're one guy in a truck or if you've got, 200-300 guys. All right.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, every project, when problems happen on a job, we can almost always source them back to a planning issue and another issue. Now, what
Yep.
we should chat about, and what I'll bring up, and I've got a good story actually. It was this week that I solved this
Okay.
problem. Okay, so there are definitely times when other people, other trades, customers, they mess with you
Yep.
and cause you the delay. Okay, so how do you handle that? So I'm going to share with you a really great story that we just settled this week, and it was again, I go through these often, but I lost enough of them to really learn from the mistake and solve it for good. So starts off with first contract, having a clear contract. What happens when somebody destroys your work, right? What happens when another subtrade, damages it? What happens when an owner throws out your material for no reason? Okay. What happens when, there's a unreasonable delay? All right. Maybe they caused them. They didn't plan another trade. Okay. What happens when that happens? So here's what I did is that I got really good at getting those into my contract, but I didn't just put them in there to, have them there that, no one was ever going to read. No. Whenever we sign a job in the pre-job meeting, and by the way, for everybody out there, I just gave you a piece of gold. Before you ever start a job, checklist. Ours has 178 items on it for a roofing project. Okay. That's 178 lessons we've learned of shit we need to check on every job before we send a crew there, before we send any guys there. Okay. And the reason why, is because I can't remember 178 things, and sure as hell you can't. And I don't care if you're doing the simplest job or not. It pays. All right. Even if you're in the sale, you grab yourself an app, whatever, a checklist, you make sure you check off all the hard lessons that you've learned because you've paid for those. Okay. Now, when it comes to the client creating the delays, I love it. Every time there's a delay on a job, you know what goes in my head? Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. I love getting paid. I love getting paid. All right. And if I don't have to work getting paid, that's what I want. And I make sure that again, every time that it happens now, I don't sweat it. I don't worry about it. It's no sweat to me. All I do, again, is I remind the owner of the contractual obligation we have. So I'll give you an example. We were doing a very large project. Homeowner, by the way, building their own house. Stay away from them. It's always a nightmare. Okay. And this guy, no names named, but basically what happened on the job was we'd left material there. He hadn't finished his brick, so we had to leave out some panels. Nonetheless, what ends up happening, he throws them out and he tells us, "Hey, I threw out all your material, all the flashing, everything." I went, "Oh, okay, no problem." I'm like, that's going to cost you. He's like, "Well, no." He's like, it's not going to cost me. I'm like, "Well, here's the contract. If you throw," and it's right there. It's so bright.
Right.
So he's a little muffled about that. But here's the next problem that happened. We couldn't match the color, because it comes from a steel coil with a different lot number. All right. Now I have to go back to him and say, "Hey, Mr. Owner, thanks for throwing out my material. I can't match the colors." He sent me and basically said, "Oh no, your roof's not matching." I was like, "No, I agree." I'm like, "You threw out the material. Like, so what should we do about this?" And he immediately said, "Well, that's your problem." I said, "No, actually, pull back out my contract. And by the way, for this delay that you caused, all right, I documented caused. All right, I'm going to be back charging you $175 every day of our delay that our crew was scheduled to be here. And on top of that, there's going to be a $4,000 remobilization cost." So now we're talking to an owner. So think about the leverage at this point. Now, would I have followed through with it? Probably not. But he's blaming me and I'm stonewalled. No, we're going to go back to our contract. We're going to go back to our contract. So we end up getting the matter resolved, and we actually have to replace 3/4 of the roof. Okay. Because he threw out the panels. Now, if it had not been in my contract, Had I not put, I would have no leg to stand on. 3/4 of the roof was replaced because we could not match the color because he threw out the original panels that
Oh
matched,
my
blah, blah, blah. Okay.
God. Oh my
So obviously he's not very pleased about being
fuck.
handed, a $25,000 bill for his mistake. Okay. Now, let me ask everybody on this call,
Wow.
honestly, if you looked at your contract, all right, and again, it doesn't matter. What would happen if you were in that situation? Contractually, if I didn't call that out, all
Yeah.
right, I would have been 100% on the hook for it. I would have had to bite the bullet. And I wonder how many of you guys go through this experience where somebody else causes a delay and then you have to pay for it, right? General contractors are famous for making the trades pay for it, right? They missed ordering brick. They missed, they missed doing things. And all of a sudden it's your problem.
Right.
Okay. This is where you have to, you have to really embrace the pain that you go through and not just move on and be like, oh, there's another loss. Oh, there's another loss. Oh, there's another loss, because there's a pattern to it. If you want to work with, multi-trade projects, you best have a very solid contract and understand where your delays and risks are. If you don't understand those things, okay, then, and you're going to learn the hard way, all right, only learn once. Don't learn over and over and over again, or never learn at all. All right. When something happens, you stop, you slow down, okay, and you take a lessons learned. All right. Whether it's yourself, whether it's your team, you document that loss. Why did that happen? How did that happen? Was it this delay? Was it that delay? And that will lead you directly to the preventative problem. So again, we're talking about project delays here. Most of them, if not all of them, are preventable. All right. Now, if it's out of your preventable, then you need to be paid for that. And that's the way I want you to think about project delays. Now, there's other things as well. I mean, again, we can go through many different scenarios and all types of different, stories and pain. And I'm sure everybody that's listening to this will be able to relate. But there's also, efficient project management. Okay. Efficient project management is, are you the guy on the tools, or are you the guy in the office, or like who's actually looking ahead and is accountable on a daily basis for checking these things? Hey, do we have enough material? Hey, have we measured to make sure we have enough, to finish the job, enough trim, enough this, right? Is there somebody that's on a daily basis meant to stop and actually go and look and see what they have? Because I'll tell you, for many years, okay, and it was the bane of my existence. I made the same mistake over and over again. Oh, the guy's got it, right? The guy's got it. Well, listen, all those things start to add up and jobs get delayed, money gets delayed, it gets slowed down, and your morale on your crews goes way down, right? Even though they're like, you figure you're paying them, stopping them from getting a job done, all right, it lowers productivity, it lowers everything. All right. So the first thing is make sure you've done that, but then have checks ongoing, right? And it's so simple, even for yourself, if you're working by yourself, right? Are you checking your material? Are you counting your material when it comes in, right? Do you know that the supplier actually dropped off that many, faucets or that many things? Are you actually checking that? Okay. And then are we taking 10 to 15 minutes a day where we're planning ahead, where we're taking ourselves out of the production mindset and we're looking at, okay, now what do I need to make sure I have ahead, right? And getting that off your plate, right? Making sure that, don't wait till the last minute to order anything. Like, get this stuff done now, get those orders in, make sure that, you've covered your ass. And that's just the basic of project management. You can advance on top of all of that. If you can't do that basic thing and your company's struggling with those basic problems, oh, I'm short this or I'm short that, and it's constant, then you've got a broken process. Okay. It's not the guys, it's not the people in the field that are failing you. It's you that are failing to lead them to the solution, right? They didn't get into the trades to solve your logistics problems. You're in the trades, that's your job. Okay. So, and I see a lot of owners, and I hear it, they're frustrated with, oh, well, my but did you ever train him? Did you ever give him a tool or tell him that this is your role and responsibility and this is how you're going to make it, things, you're going to report to me on a daily basis on what we need? No. Most of you guys that have not, you just expect that somebody is going to, think of those things. And the reality is no human being can think about all the little details. It's a team effort, right? And again, it's systems and processes and procedures. I would say it's more procedural at that point of
Right.
what do we do and how are we learning from our mistakes, right? How are we preventing these from happening over and over again? How do we, and when you start asking those questions, you'd be very surprised how easy the solutions are, right?
Right.
And where they lead you to as an operation and as a business. The last thing that I would really, for guys that are in a higher level, have been doing this a couple of years, one of the big things that I would have to bring up, and I'm a data person, is once you've built out these processes and you've got tracking and you're collecting data, that is where the money is. I assure you. When you can see what your inefficiency is from crew to crew to crew, immediately we can set KPIs for that crew and correct them. Okay. So daily reports, for example. All right. I know every job that is a delay and I know who's on that job. All right. That gives me the opportunity to coach up or coach out. If somebody is
Right.
consistently wasting material, losing, product or damaging, damaging stuff, or has problems with their clients, then I know that I'm going to go down the line. I'm going to find out exactly where that problem is very quickly, because the data doesn't lie, right?
Right.
People lie, things get exaggerated, but data never lies. And we're going to set a KPI to improve that, that outcome. Now, again, it takes some time. It takes the basic stuff. If I didn't have the checklist, I wouldn't have, put it into a digital form. If I didn't put it into a digital form, I wouldn't have been able to collect it data and I wouldn't have been able to analyze it, right? So one step at a time. But for guys that are doing big business, your money is being won or lost in these kind of exchanges, right?
Yeah.
And the delays are just again, they could be for a lot of companies, and I don't know, a lot of companies are in this chronic stage of delay where every job they do is
Right.
way over. They don't even start with a timeline. They don't even start with a schedule. They don't communicate it to their crews. They don't tell their crews how many hours they have.
Right.
They don't push them to get to that, that finish line on time. And
Right.
again, you're losing money that way. You're losing, you're basically telling your men, hey, we're going to go out and play this game of hockey today, but we're going to take all the nets away. There's no score. Are
Right.
we? I'm going to get you out there on your shoes, on the ice. Are we even playing hockey at this point? Right?
Right.
What are
Right.
we
What are we,
doing here?
what are we
Right?
doing?
People are just going to show up and and hope they get through the chaos of your business and your life, right? So again, these are the things you want to think about, because it's as the contractor, you are 100% responsible for these things. Either you're preventing the delay, you're communicating it, you're mitigating it, all right, or you're getting paid for it. And be the last one. Be getting
Right.
paid for the delays. I love getting
Right.
paid for delays. That $30,000 that customer, had to cough back over to me for his mistake. How many of you all have eaten those mistakes? Okay. Now for us, it's no problem. And I did charge him because he was a dick and fought me on the first thing. And it brings it up and brings it clear. I had so much leverage, and at the end of the day, they're like, nobody's going to fight over it. It's no argument. It's a clear cut, dry, you'd cost this. We
Right.
documented it. My daily work report backed it up that you had hired someone to actually come and throw out the material when we were not on site.
So stupid.
But so stupid, right?
So
But
stupid.
again, how many contractors get caught in these situations, where now they're stuck in the middle, and it happens. It's
Yeah.
unpreventable. It's going to happen, big, small, experience, not experience, it doesn't matter. But again, like I said, every time it does, whether you won or you lost, you have a responsibility to yourself and to your business to sit down or slow down, learn from that mistake, and prevent it from happening again. All right. If you don't take that opportunity to learn and to implement something that's going to prevent it, or, document it so that you don't have to continuously deal with this problem,
Yeah.
you will continue to, repeat it over and over again until you go out of business.
So let's give so for the guy or lady out there that is where we were, right?
Mhm.
And because I remember, and I didn't have any experience in contracting, so I was really at a disadvantage. So I mean, I would literally just like keep a note, right? And I still have my very first attempt at a process, and it's
That's
laughable.
okay.
It's like my son could have done it, and but like that's where I started. I just started making notes. So like, and I'm not saying that's what people should do, but I mean, this is, you are the Jedi of systems. So like for the
Mhm.
guy or the lady out there that's, either they started a business or they're a few years in or they're having success, but they're still having these problems, which I think is a lot of people. Like, what's the next thing? Like, what's the next thing they can do?
Again, and I'll put a shameless plug in here for us. I am a professional problem solver. I love solving problems. I
Yeah.
love the shit that you don't want to solve. All
Right.
right. You can hire a consultant. We're consultants. That's what we do. We come in and we solve these kind of problems. If it's a process problem, if it's a production problem, if it's really about understanding what the problem is, why it's happening, right? What the risk and cost is to your business. All right. And then if it's worth to have somebody else come in and solve it for you, right? A lot of times guys are not systems guys. Okay. And I respect
No.
and I can appreciate that. So, but don't get caught in a situation where you're trying to do, if that's not your jam, it's much cheaper to hire someone
Right.
like me to come in and fix the problem and eliminate it forever, okay, than you to continue to struggle with it. So if, checklists and, getting a production plan is not something that you even want to get involved with, right?
Right.
Again, you don't want a system process, but you need it, all right? Whether it's me, whether it's whoever, software, whatever, it's up to you to still solve that problem and get it solved so that you can consistently manage projects. All right. And that's the key here, right? You want to make money in this business. I mean, at the top end, marketing and sales, that's a very big system that I'm quite passionate about, and we'll have lots of
Right.
talks about that. But the production system, that's the hard, boring work. All right. And a lot of guys don't have any of them in place. And therefore, they cannot make it to the next
Right.
level. They can't have the freedom they want. They can't, they can't step off the job sites. They can't leave the business for 2 seconds or it's gone. This is what's holding you back, right? So it's your responsibility to learn enough that you can get the right people in to solve it, right? Or again, you take it head on and start to solve it from a systems point of view. But at the end of the day, if it continues to happen over and over again, you're good. You may as well stop and go get a job with someone, right? And I
Right.
see so many companies, because the next thing that's going to happen, no cash flow. We hear this all the time, right?
Right.
Owing suppliers money all over the place. And again, it's gonna leak into every other element of the business. You can't get work done. Why do I have all these guys that I'm paying and we're only getting half a job done a month? Like you're sending that message to your staff, and believe me, it's just as much energy to be super productive and on time and on schedule as it is to be unproductive and having these issues on your crews, because your morale is being sucked out, right? Guys don't necessarily want to show up and just dog it, right? Most of the
No.
time, what we find out is that there's just no clear pathway. There's
Right.
not a clear leadership plan in place. There's
Yeah.
there's all these little things that are missing that are causing your guys to just think that this is a job they can just show up and, yeah, whatever, I'm going to get paid, right? Well, I mean, you're attracting them. It's because you yourself is very
Right.
unorganized,
Right.
right? And again, that's not it's not a shot. We've all gone through it, and we've all, had the pain of being exposed for it. And I mean, the challenge here is, again, you either, put a plan, start working on it yourself, get it to a certain point, maybe where you can get some help, or you know that you have this issue and you need to solve it, because every day that it continues to happen, it's going to cost you more and more money. And not to mention, how much repeat business has been lost, how many,
Right.
customers it takes 8 times more energy and
Yeah.
finance to build a new
Right.
client than it is to keep the ones you got.
Right.
Right. So it's all things to consider. And I know we've got contractors of all different sizes and shapes and issues. If you have a big problem, I'm happy to listen to it. Again, book in a call with us. We'll go through it, and I'm a pretty straight up guy. If I can solve your problem, if I have a solution for it, that's what I'm here for. I am a problem solver. It's what I'm passionate about doing, and I've solved a lot of problems in my own businesses. So reach out, and don't let these things destroy what otherwise would be a great business.
So how can people, here in the group, if someone is watching this now, or, they catch this later on replay, should they DM? Like, how should
Yeah,
they?
just DM us. We've got we'll respond to you pretty quickly. And simple as just book a call in. We do a scope of
Yeah.
work of what you're trying to solve. Everything's documented. Again, you can imagine it's very systemized.
Yeah.
Again, being a professional problem solver, we systemized it so that it's easy for you. We have timelines, we have objectives, deliverables, all that kind of stuff, and it just gets done for you, right? That's what
Yeah.
we offer. That's what we're here for. So, and again, everybody has problems. Some of them I can solve, some of them I can't. But it's worth your time to see if there is something that's truly keeping you up at night and that you're rolling around and in torment over, that you reach out to the right people who have experienced it, and
Right.
get your problem solved.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Project delays.
Right.
So if you see this, if you're watching this and you're new to the group, because we've got a lot of people that are coming into the Facebook group, like every day there's people joining. So if you're seeing this for the first time, or you haven't seen other lives, all you got to do is DM DMJ, or DM you.
Yep.
And
Or the Profitable Contractor Club. In the
or
in
the
Facebook
chat.
group.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So you can just DM the group. And Jay and one of his team, they're going to see it, and
Yeah, or just
we'll
post on the
set up
group.
a
Like,
call.
again,
Yeah,
we're
we'll
in
do
a
that
place in
too.
time. It's
Yeah.
whatever's easiest for you.
Yeah. So, yeah, we've got some good stuff. And for anybody who doesn't know, and I'll say this and then we can wrap it up. That's actually how Jay and I met.
There you go. It is.
I was looking for solutions, and I thought I had, when Jay and I met, I thought like I had kind of figured things out a little bit and had made a lot of like really positive changes and was kind of moving in these directions. But, I was like, on the pre-planning in particular, I was like, we've got to step our game up because we weren't there, and that was, your pre-inspection, Jay's got a pre-inspection that is ridiculous. In the best possible way. It's amazing. And I ripped that off, man. I put that into place, and it's the little things,
It's
right?
little things.
For us rolling these big machines in, we were always cracking concrete pads, and so for 2 years, on my jobs, I didn't have to pay for any concrete.
Right.
Because we took pictures, or we told the owners, look, there's no way this is going to survive. This machine is 30,000 pounds or 40,000 pounds. There's no way this concrete survives.
Right.
So before we
harmless.
went in,
Here we go.
Before we went in, we had the conversation. Anyway, so we've got a lot of cool stuff here. Thanks for hanging out with us for a minute. Like I said, for those that we got a lot of new people. For those that are just checking it out for the first time, we do this every Friday and we're live. So this isn't a recording. We're talking to you right now live. And so come check it out. Check out the posts. And if someone wants to jump on with us, that'd be cool too. We'll have a great time. And so we'll look for that this week. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us, and we will see you next week.
Bye.